Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in to this video in particular. This one is kind of important to me. There's an issue that's been on my mind for a while now. It's something that I feel terrible about. I've just got to get it off my chest. It's an issue regarding my favorite horror franchise, Halloween, in particular Part 2. The original Part 2. The Laurie stuck in a hospital the entire time, Part 2.
A little kid who killed his sister?
Yeah.
He's in a hospital somewhere.
Now, let me start by saying Halloween 2 was a huge influence on me as a kid. It's one of the first horror movies I ever watched. As soon as I was old enough to operate our beta player on my own, this is one of those movies that was on constantly. I watched it probably more than any other horror movie.
Is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight.
You don't know what death is.
Now, we didn't have the original. As far as I knew, this was it. But I didn't care. And to be honest, I don't even think I noticed. I mean, it starts right at the end of part 1. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. What else is there to know? The fact that this movie picks up right in the middle of the action makes it so easy to just pop in and watch anytime. There's no long introduction to the characters or the plot. You're just immediately in the middle of the movie. And I love how the momentum keeps going even after the title sequence. Michael Myers just continues roaming around the neighborhood, avoiding police and killing teenagers. This is one of the best opening sequences of any movie. And since the whole movie takes place on the same night, we never lose any of that momentum. The police and Dr. Loomis are trying to track down Michael, but they have no idea where he is. At the same time, Michael Myers is tracking down Laurie, and he knows exactly where she is. There's this constant sense of urgency as to who's gonna catch up to who first. It's rare to find movies with this level of excitement all the way through. I don't even mind that the majority of this movie takes place in one place. The hospital setting, to me, is perfect. It's such a large building with enough meandering hallways and basements and back rooms that it never feels unbelievable for people to just disappear.
Mr. Garrett, I gotta get back on the floor. Hello?
I know Halloween Kills and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 both paid homage to this one by having large portions take place in a hospital, but it's not the same. Part 2 did it right, and it hasn't been done as well since. Now, I know this wouldn't be a review of a Halloween movie without bringing up the shape itself. But before I do, I want to remind you that if you like my content and you want to support me, I've included a few links in the description below to help me out. Okay, part 2 has one of my favorite portrayals of Michael Myers in the entire franchise. I just love the way he looks, especially his mask. Even though they reused the mask from part 1, it's been a couple of years and it's gotten a little weathered and worn, which I think plays into the narrative really well. Because let's not forget, Michael Myers was shot out of a balcony.
I shot him 6 times. He's not human.
If you think of that moment as being his death, then the rest of number 2 would make him basically a walking corpse. So his weathered and deteriorating mask is an effective visual for what's going on underneath. If that's a bit of a stretch for you, that's fine, I get it. But to me, it makes a lot of sense, and I love this movie for that. I also love how slow-moving Michael Myers is. Not only does it add to the idea of him being a walking corpse, it's also so visually striking. He just moves so slow, it's unnatural. Michael Myers feels more like the Shape here than in any other movie. Also, the stalking scenes here are some of the best in the franchise. Some of my favorite scenes are when you can see Michael in the background. You know, you never see him like crouched behind a desk or like trying to avoid being seen. He just stands there. Moments like these are some of the most memorable to me. And even to this day, after watching this countless times, it's still exciting for me to see Michael just casually in the background.
That's right down the street.
I know.
You know, I don't need the director telling me exactly what to look at with that annoying zoom in or queuing up some loud sound every time the killer steps into frame.
I know. You know, it's probably Miller.
Where'd it happen?
Down on Orange Grove.
That's right down the street.
Subtlety, especially in horror movies, is very much appreciated by me. And when I think of subtlety and horror, Halloween 2 is an extraordinary blend of both. It's a great entry in the Halloween franchise, and honestly, just a great slasher. Which brings me to the point of this video. I owe Halloween 2 an apology. Recently, I started looking down on it and criticizing it for introducing that whole sibling idea. I felt like it was just a desperate attempt to keep the franchise going, and that has a great deal to do with my overblown appreciation for Halloween 2018 and my overhyped expectations for kills and ends. I was so impressed back in 2018 that I actually convinced myself that it was the sibling dynamic that doomed the Halloween franchise all along. But you know what? This version, quite frankly, didn't come out any better. Kills and ends were both so unnecessarily complicated with clunky writing.
Evil dies tonight!
I mean, thanks to their budgets, they look better than anything that came before. But let's face it, they're not great.
I got myself a guitar at the pawn shop, and I've been fiddling around with that.
So now that some time has passed, I've had some time to think, and I feel really guilty about giving part 2 the cold shoulder. So this last Halloween season, I sat down and I watched it again for the first time in far too long. And it's everything I remember. From the whole hospital setting to the slow as molasses Michael Myers. I love this movie. I know that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill didn't want to make a sequel, but they did, and here it is. It's not perfect. I mean, honestly, when you really think about it, that sibling dynamic was a bit of a stretch, maybe even a little desperate, but it worked well enough. So I'm willing to go with it. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm suddenly turning my back on the new trilogy. If they wanted to continue the franchise in that direction, I'd be willing to go with that too. Hell, if someone took on the challenge to make some sense of that Thorn cult and continue with that part of the franchise, I wouldn't even mind a direct sequel to Curse. And you know what? This is something that makes Halloween such a fun franchise. It really is like a choose-your-own-adventure experience. Some experiences, of course, are better than others, but I'm willing to keep an open mind to whatever comes next. Just don't put Michael Myers in space. We don't need that.
Too bad about Kenny, huh? Life in the big city.